Welcome back to another episode of Contents May Vary with Candace and Kelli. I'm Candace.
And I'm Kelli.
And the last two episodes, we talked about the things that make us us. We talked about our moms and our dads. But there's another character in our story that makes us who we are, and that's the South. I'm from Memphis. Kelly's from St. Louis, Midwest. But we consider all of that the South because, we all cousins, basically. Yep. But my folks, my mom's from Mississippi, our dad's from Mississippi too. So definitely deep Southern roots. Kelli, what about your folks? Where are they all from?
So although my mom was born in St. Louis, our family is also from Mississippi. My grandmother, my mom's mother, she's from not far up the road from where dad's family is from. She's from Coldwater, Mississippi. Wow. Grew up in Tate County, Panola. And when I trace my mother, so I know I want to learn a lot about the women that came before me because, biologically, we technically are them. Like we stem straight from the women that came before us. So I prioritize learning my mother's line. So going mothers, I trace them all the way back as far as I could right now to Hinds County, Mississippi, which is the area surrounding Jackson, Mississippi. A little bit further down. Yeah. And then my mom's father, he's from Arkansas, and his family traces back from Arkansas to Georgia. And I think that's as far as I could find when I was looking at records and stuff.
All roads lead back to the South.
Back to the South. For real.
Which is crazy. So my mom's family, so dad's from Hernando, DeSoto County, Olive Branch area. Then my mom's folks are from Rankin County, Mississippi. So she grew up in Winona, Mississippi. Winona just sound country. It's because of the N-O-N, sound like known.
And it's the pronunciation of it. Because I'm so used to saying the name Winona, like saying it Winona, but saying Winona is very much
Winona. You got to put the extra thing on it.
Yeah.
And I'm not as familiar with my mom's. Not as familiar with her side of the family, but also not as familiar with the part of Mississippi where she grew up. Like I've only gone there. Like I spent one summer there with an aunt when I want to say I was like 8 or 9 or something like that. And every other visit down there since had really been for funeral, unfortunately.
Okay.
So I got to see some of the things my mom might have talked about, but not really familiar with it as in like when I go, I feel it. You know what I mean? But I think it's interesting that your mom is also from Mississippi because I think like people find like people, wherever you are. So even though dad was in St. Louis when he met your mom, he still met somebody that I imagine felt familiar because I think there's a kindredness to people who are from the South.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of how you said the feeling of going back to, where your mom is from, I've had the opportunity to go to Coldwater and around that area when I was about the same age, about 8 or 9, for a family reunion that we had back then at the time. It's so long ago that I don't remember, and I wish for more opportunities to connect with that side of the family, to get back down, to see, to get down there and see if I can feel it, I've been to Hernando. Dad showed me around down there, and it was definitely just a blessing to see, just to learn the story. That's one thing that I want to know more about is how does this family end up in this area? They've been there for so long, like what's the story behind that? Because in my mind, the math is not mathing when I compare it to the narrative that we're taught in school. Like, wait a minute, you say all the Black people came from such and such, but these people been here for a while and they're doing all right. How is it that what part of the story is this? So I think that's why I just love getting into genealogy and history and ancestry in that regard, because I want to know the truth. I want to know what it is. Like for so long, just relied on the narrative that we're taught in school, and I know it's deeper. We're not a monolith. There's so many.
Not at all.
Yeah, there's so many different stories amongst Black people in America, the Black people of the South, and just the nuance that is
Mm-hmm.
within our culture as a people, and
Mm-hmm.
we get slapped with such a broad label often.
A broad label, and also I think, and it's unfair too. As much as although I live in Maryland, as our Uncle Dwight would say, rest his soul, he would say, I'm a Northeasterner now. Or what can remember I feel like sometimes he would say Atlantic too sometimes, but I think
Okay.
Northeasterner was the phrase he would use to talk about how, because he now live up,
Uh-huh.
up on the East Coast. But I think living in this area, and even though this is still technically below the Mason-Dixon, there's a difference
Mm-hmm.
between, Maryland South,
Mm-hmm.
Virginia South, and Mississippi South,
Yeah.
and Memphis South. And even we kind of alluded to previously about, Kentucky South is even different where you're living.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that annoys me at times is, and it's usually around political conversations,
Okay.
is when people talk about, like, because the South didn't vote a certain way, or like the majority of the people who were voting in certain elections, because they didn't vote, or, the outcome didn't go a certain way in those states, it's like they want to throw the whole part of the country away. And I'm like, that's where fundamentally majority Black folks in the South,
Yeah.
and it's, a legacy of disenfranchisement and the legacy of Jim Crow and all of that makes it to where our voice is suppressed so significantly. But you can't discount the South.
No.
Like tradition, culture, food, all those things are, like, a lot of it, the origin is there.
Yeah.
So we're like, who was that said, put some respect on my name, put some respect on myself.
For real. Speaking of, when you look at our family, and I guess we'll talk specifically like dad's side. What would you say is one of the most Southern things about our family, perhaps, that you've always considered to be that, or maybe that you didn't realize was so Southern until later?
There are things that I didn't necessarily equate with being Southern. Honestly, a lot of my life I didn't equate with being Southern until I got to other environments. And I was like, oh.
That's usually how it happens, yeah. Culture shock.
Culture shock. And also, you said I'm country?
Right.
Like, how dare you? I didn't think I sounded country, So I'll get to our family, the family things in a minute, but it's kind of an example of how you don't realize how you are is different until you're around other folks. And my first experience was when I was in high school. So, my last 2 years of high school, I went to boarding school in New Hampshire. Okay.
Bless your heart.
Culture shock.
Yeah.
And I remember I would say stuff, and one of the little boys that I considered my little boyfriend up there, he would make fun of me. He's from New York, and he would make fun of me and say, what'd you say again? What'd you say? What word is that? Because I would say pen. I was like, you got a pen? I need a pen. And he was like, well, what are you saying? You talking about, what kind of pen you talking about? I was like, a pen, a writing pen. And he was like, okay, so if that's a pen, then what is this? And he's talking about like a stick pen. And I'm like, it's a pen.
A pen. Yeah.
He was like, those are two different words. It's two different letters in between the thing. I was like, they're both pen.
Yeah.
One's a writing pen, the other one's a stick pen.
Okay.
And he said, no, they sound different. Like a PEN is a pen and a PIN is a pen.
No,
I'm like, no.
Homonym. What is it?
Absolutely
A homonym?
not.
I literally say them the same. Pen and pen.
Absolutely not. They are the same. Pen. And if you use context clues to figure out exactly what somebody's talking about. And if it's not clear, I'm going to say a writing pen or a stick pen. But anyway, so that was my first time to figure out, or to notice that the way I spoke was different. And of course, also up there, that was probably my first introduction to the necessity of code switching. And so I think a lot of my professional life, I don't necessarily hear my southernness come out as frequently, um, unless I'm getting mad. But but as far as our family goes, one of the things that I love about dad's side of the family is that the family dinners that we would have, like on some Sundays, it might have been a random Sunday, where it's like, okay, everybody's gonna have dinner down at grandma's house, or it might have been, a holiday where grandma, it was being hosted at grandma's house. And it was just, the laughter, the conversation, the preparation, and nobody being, only certain people being in the kitchen, and the entertainment, like the hosting of it all. Like, even though, and dinner was always late at grandma's house, always late, like 8:00. Like, they might say dinner's at 4. Dinner's not at 4. Dinner's gonna be close to 8, and
that's
we're
our family
always,
to this day with Thanksgiving.
Yep, and we're always waiting for the bread. It'd be 7:30. Be like, we ready to eat just as soon as the cornbread done or the rolls done. Like, it's just always waiting on the bread. But even still, even though nothing was going according to whatever you might consider would be the plan, if you're expected to be eating at 4:00, there was still an orchestration to everything. It was like, that when you come in, you walk through that back door, it's always going to be unlocked. You walk into the back door, you're passing through the kitchen, you're saying hello to everybody. And then at some point, you're going to find whichever crew is your age or your generation, part of your generation, and be with them. Or the uncles are going to be outside by the grill. What they're gonna be wearing, because it's just like it's gonna be some nice khakis and some nice loafer shoes, and so gonna be ready. Dad gonna have the towel over his shoulder. Dad's gonna be the one on the grill primarily until he got till he got much older, and then it went down and down, and then you see the older boy cousins around the uncles, like they graduated to a certain point. So it was just like this whole production of family time. And what I think it taught me, and I didn't, unknowingly, was around the art of hosting and hospitality in a way that I didn't connect to being Southern. Like, I thought that's just what you do. And I didn't make the connection to it being both Southern and also something that, like, those style of hosting being some, like, kind of unique to our family. Was when, I guess it was like 2000, has been like 2008, 2009, 08, I think, because Zora was not born yet. And I invited a coworker and some other friends over to the house for like a conversation night. And we were just we had a topic, we would talk, and I, of course, cooked. And you make sure there's always a lot of food. Ain't nobody gonna run out of food because ain't nobody even talking about nobody. And you give everyone a certain level of attention so that they feel special. And a girlfriend of mine, who we were colleagues at that time, now I count her as a friend. She told me then, she was like, well, actually, she didn't tell me, maybe it's a little while after. She was like, you've encouraged me to consider hosting more. She was like, I love the way you host. And I never thought of it as a unique skill or anything like that until she said that. And then I started thinking back to all the ways that hosting kind of shows up in both our family on the Bacchus side, but also the way my mom would host, or when she would throw a party, like certain things to pay attention to. And I think that's uniquely Southern. I think, of course, everyone knows how to host, but not everyone knows how to be hospitable. And there's a reason why Southern hospitality is a phrase.
Yep. Yeah. And until now, before you gave it, you posed it that way, I hadn't even considered that would be a reason. But my grandmother was known. The stories I hear about my grandmother, my mom's mother, was about how much of a host she was, and throwing parties, cooking her dinners, cakewalk parties. I've never been to one, but like things like that she would always have, she loved having people over her house. Hearing those stories, because I didn't get to experience it a lot myself. I lost my grandmother when I was 13. So I did see some of her hosting, but it was always usually like one or two of her girlfriends coming over. Or sometimes she'll have like special occasion dinners and I get to help her set up and prepare for that. But hearing those stories, I just always assumed it was just her nature. It was a way that she liked. You know what I'm saying? I never tied it to being a Southern thing. But now that you say that, I hear a lot of that, you know, in your story as well.
Aunt Jackie, who lives here lives in DC, I get to experience her hosting that feels very familiar to grandma's. Whenever, you know, I get a chance to go to her house for holiday dinner or just an impromptu thing, it's really nice to experience, because not only is it just nice to go to an event that feels, you know, or something that feels like an event, even though it's just a dinner
at the house.
It's also, there's so much care that comes with hosting. And when you are the one being hosted, you're essentially being cared for in a way by someone who doesn't have to necessarily, but they choose to.
One thing that stuck out from the story, and it probably shouldn't have, but it was just truly like a cultural nuance to me. I hope the tradition of not using the front door never dies. Like Black people, we always gonna come in the side door.
If it's the front door, that's a stranger.
No. We gonna use that side door, that back door, come in through the garage. I hope that never dies. Let's always keep that alive. My best friend to this day, her parents' house, we always go in through the garage. Like, now that I'm thinking back, like that's so us.
Listen, it's one door. It's gonna be one door. You know, that person that's using a different door, they don't know no better. You're like, okay, they either don't belong or they done got too good for something. Talking about people got to come through the front door. You know, you know, but another thing that's very Southern, I think, or maybe it's old. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know which category to put things in, because it's like, is it generational or is it Southern or is it both? Okay, so I am much better when it comes to events and stuff, or like outings. I am certainly a spontaneous, like spur of the moment, last minute person. I'll be like, oh, I see this. Hey, you want to go? We can go now. You know, when it comes to planning, you come out, what are you doing the third Tuesday of November? Don't. No. That's too far in advance. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Yeah. And then now that you'd asked me, I'm not really going to look forward to it. I'm looking forward to it, but it's like a little hum that's in the back of my mind. Right. But I loved, like when I was growing up, I remember there would be occasions where people just pop up. Like it was not a planned, you know, I'm going to come by on Saturday. It was just, I was riding by, I just decided to stop on through. And I find myself doing my friends like that here. Like I will just be like, you home? And I just like, I'm outside, or I'm ringing the doorbell. If you answer, great. If you don't, fine. If your house ain't ready to see me, I don't care. You know, like just let me come in and sit on the couch for a minute.
That's that sense of community.
Yeah,
that's community. I want more of that. I feel like maybe this generation has lost a little bit of that feel. I feel like I experienced that again a lot more just being at my grandma's house and seeing her riding around with her. She'll stop at people's house or somebody will stop over. You know, it was just like, a lot of that. Go home? And I'm just sitting there listening to old ladies talk. But they feed me when I go over there. So I always get some extra treats and stuff. But yeah, I feel like that's just a sense of community that we could hopefully, you know, benefit from, either cultivating and keeping it alive, you know, or rekindling it for those who probably don't feel that, you know, that experience these days.
Definitely a rekindling is necessary on that, especially like the drop in or the, you know, because I mean, it's at the point now people don't even want nobody to call them. You know, it's just like, text me, don't call my phone, you know. And we lose so much in not doing that. But I do think that there are probably elements of that still persist in the South simply because. You know, simply because when you were talking about running them errands or being with your grandma and, you know, end up stopping by somebody's house
Mm-hmm.
unexpectedly. Did you also have somebody that you were like, dang, we going over this lady house, and she
Oh.
had a little mustache or something?
Oh my God. The exact person that came to my mind has a mustache. Sorry. I'm not going to say the names. I'm not going to say the names.
In my case, it was a mustache, and she dipped snuff, and I could not stand the combination of it. I was like, "Why your face moist?"
My Lord. Yeah. Yeah. There would be those trips. I was like, do I have to go? But I'm a kid. I couldn't stay at home. But I had to just ride and find myself something to do.
That plastic on the sofa.
Oh, yeah. My granny had that. My granny had the plastic on the sofa, child.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, some of those things, man, I truly miss. And it gives me a deep sense of nostalgia when I think about a lot of those elements and just culture and thinking back to our roots and how that makes us who we are. Very much nostalgic.
So even though, your mom and her folks and your mom and both parents from the South, deep South, and but you grew up in, I guess, what's technically Midwest, right? Is St. Louis considered Midwest?
It's considered the Midwest. Okay. Yeah.
What's it like growing up there? Because I have a close girlfriend who's from Chicago. And I find that so much of what we, like when we talk about certain things or there are certain phrases we might use, it feels like family.
Oh,
like it feels like, we related. I think she said, we just Memphis people in the cold or in the snow or something. I can't remember exactly how she phrased it. But what was it like? How does being from St. Louis shape your identity and who you are? Because Memphis certainly shapes mine.
Oh, for sure. Being from St. Louis, I feel like a special type of person. It makes me, it gives me a strong sense of identity. And again, that happened once I got into the world and got out and met people from other cultures. I went to school in Florida. So I started noticing just differences amongst cultures very quickly. But it gave me a strong sense of identity because I never considered like even just something as simple as the way that I talked was unique to how or where I was from. The foods that I eat, the way I like to dance and I feel like people in St. Louis, we are dancing people. There's a lot of dancing people in the South too. When I went to school, I think that's why I like the people in Florida so much because they dance down in Florida too. But just the different aspects of our culture really have pulled together a strong sense of identity for me that makes me proud. And to know that there's, again, I take pride in knowing that we're not a monolith and there are so many different stories and versions of Black people here in this country. And to be from a specific group of one of those types of people gives me a strong sense of identity. When you talk about like the Memphis and Chicago and St. Louis connection, that is very true, just even historically based on migration patterns of people from the South coming up out of Memphis and Mississippi, went straight up the Mississippi River pretty much. So you got people from Mississippi and Memphis and St. Louis and Chicago, even as far as like Minnesota, Milwaukee, up even further. There is a rich culture that's spread from the South, stretches up from the South through the Midwest, that would result in us having a lot of in common and feeling like distant cousins. I remember one time I posted, when I just mentioned just how like how we talk in St. Louis is unique to us, listening like to artists from Memphis, I posted like St. Louis's accent is just Memphis's little cousin, like Memphis accent's little cousin, because we do talk a lot alike, but Memphis is just a little more thick, like, and I don't know, even with St. Louis being a city, there's a lot of people who have that same background in St. Louis, and we give it still that country feel. Like it still feel like country, but we're in the city. We talk to take a lot of pride in who we are and what we represent. One main thing when you meet somebody from St. Louis or somebody from St. Louis meet somebody else in the wild that's from St. Louis, our first question is always, what high school did you go to? And it's not to like judge, but we getting a grasp on who you may know. You gotta
ground it. You're like, okay, all right. So you grew up in this part of town more than likely. Okay.
Yeah. So, just we always it's always that's the first question. And it just goes to show just how we tend to connect the dots about who we are, where we're from. And one thing that I love when it comes to our culture specifically, again, the uniqueness is our food and our just the style of food that we eat. I know St. Louis and probably Memphis too, but St. Louis is known for its barbecue. And I take very much pride in that. I feel like my mom, I don't feel like, I know my mom makes the best barbecue I've ever had in my life.
Really?
And to know, yes, my mom makes the best barbecue in the world.
Have you had Dad's barbecue though?
I haven't.
I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna give it a little. Probably gonna give it a run for its money, cause Tanz is a beast on that grill.
For real. And to know that my mom, she learned to barbecue from my grandmother. My grandmother,
wow.
Yeah. So to know that what I'm tasting when I'm eating that is probably something rooted back all the way back in culture. You know, I take a strong sense of pride in that, to know that it's the best I've ever had, and that's for a reason, because that's how I family cook.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah,
I love that.
Another just thing that I would consider to be funny. Growing up, I've always wanted gold teeth. I asked for gold teeth when I was in preschool for Christmas. Shout out to Miss Barsh, my preschool teacher, one of my daycare center teachers. She had gold teeth, and ever since then I've wanted it. But I never knew it was it's not that it's taboo, but it was just always culture to me. I wanted gold teeth. I still want a grill to this day.
I'm so tickled.
I want a grill so bad.
I'm tickled because I too want a grill. Okay. I too want one. I want one that I can, pull out and put back in. And also, I had a preschool teacher who had a little short Jerry curl fro, a couple of chin hairs, and a gold tooth. And I was like, she was the best person.
Yep. For real. Shout out to Miss Barsh. She had that gold. I can't even tell you if it was one gold tooth or many, but I knew she had them golds in her mouth. And I've wanted gold teeth ever since then, all my life. But growing up, it was normal to see people walking up and down the street with gold teeth. That's just culture. It's just, I don't know.
But I think after I never, when I was little, never wanted a gold tooth. As an adult, I do. Or like a grill. As an adult, I do. When I was in school, and I would tell people I'm from Memphis, they were like, "Oh, so you had Jerry curl, you got gold teeth," and they say it because they're trying to be funny. They're trying to be funny, but our aunt, who is our great aunt, she's grandmother's sister, Mama Freddie. Mama Freddie had gold tooth. Okay. And I always thought that was when I would see her gold tooth, because I had this, or have, I guess, this impression of grandma's side of the family that they were, just proper and just so. And to me, having a gold tooth was something that was so improper.
Okay. And
I was like, wow, Mama Freddie had a gold tooth.
Wow.
I was like, oh, she bucked the system a little bit, but that's just all based on my assumptions. Okay, so St. Louis barbecue, your mom's barbecue being the best barbecue you ever had. Mine is Dad's barbecue is the best barbecue I've ever had, because people always say, oh, I'm going to Memphis, where should I go get barbecue? And I always say, honestly, the best place to get barbecue anywhere in Memphis is somebody's backyard.
Absolutely.
Is somebody who know how to cook and who has been trusted with a grill.
Absolutely.
But my favorite food is catfish.
Let's talk about it.
Fried catfish.
Let's talk about it.
And in particular, there is a certain plate, and there's a certain person who I always have arguments with about this plate, because they say it don't go together. But catfish and spaghetti go together.
Listen.
Catfish, spaghetti, a piece of light bread, which is white bread. Okay. And you can do, if you want some green beans, you can put some green beans on that plate. If you want some potato salad or coleslaw, you can put both of them on that plate too. But at minimum, it's going to be catfish, spaghetti, and a piece of light bread.
And that's ours. I mean, there's a specific niche of people, again, in America, Black Americans, there's a specific community of us where that is the norm.
It
In
is
St.
normal.
Louis, is spaghetti can be a side. And
Spaghetti
specifically
is a
with
side.
fried fish and fried chicken. We used to do it with fried chicken and fried fish, where we'd have our spaghetti on the side. And it wasn't until I think I went to school, or maybe when Twitter came around, where I started to see people. I didn't know people didn't do this elsewhere. Where I was like, oh, y'all really got a problem with us putting spaghetti on the plate with some fish? That's two meats. You already got meat in the spaghetti.
So,
I'm sorry, we're not like rationing food around here. Like,
it's called
that
getting
spaghetti
full.
is a side. Like, it's a side. I don't know. You just get a scoop. Don't give you a whole plate of spaghetti, but just get a scoop.
It is a side dish.
That makes it a side. But yeah, it wasn't until I got further down, and you would think, like I said, it's very specific. You would think it's an absolutely Southern thing, but no, it's specific to like the west of the South, like Mississippi, St. Louis, a little Chicago, Midwest type connections. Because people in Georgia, those are the ones I be having the debates with. They don't do that spaghetti.
They don't,
as a side
and
dish.
it's unfortunate for them.
Hate it for you.
Because they're missing out.
Really. I definitely, yeah, that is such a staple. We when we'd have like catfish fries, we did have the light bread or white bread, but a lot of times my grandma, she would make sure we had some cornbread, and that was specific. Well, I guess you could do it with regular bread. I just remember like growing up, if I was choking or get a bone stuck in my throat, she said just eat a piece of cornbread and that'll push it on down, and that was always the remedy.
My aunt would always tell ball up a piece of light bread. So I don't know. Yep. Look, there's heritage in food. I'm sorry. You know,
truly,
it's not my fault. Y'all ain't got no heritage in your food.
And y'all rationing spaghetti.
So much you can't have two meats. Right. Tell that to the people in New Orleans that eat dirty rice.
Hello.
Like, you can have.
And I bet they won't.
They won't. They won't sell it to nobody.
They won't. Candace, do you ever feel like the pull of your Southern lineage or your heritage in ways that are hard to explain?
Yes. And I think I feel it more as I'm getting older. And again, I don't know if it's my Southernness or if it's my age. You know, again, I don't know which thing I can attribute it to, but I will say that in this last year, I have felt it more intensely than any other time of my life. Like, I've always loved being from Memphis and claiming being from Memphis. Like, you would never hear me say, no, you know, you'll never hear me say that, because Memphis is home. And I wish I could be at home. Honestly, a lot of times I wish I lived closer to family. But in this last year, I think, especially because, you know, parents are aging, and I think mortality is on my mind more than it might have been at any other time of my life. And I find myself thinking back to, what are my traditions? Like, what are the traditions that I will be tasked with ensuring carry forward? And I found that a lot of things have just been coming back to the surface for me. Things that I had, you know, either forgotten about or didn't appreciate as much. I've been like, oh, I want to do that, or I want to have that, or start doing it, because I want to feel connected to it. And I also want to be able to share whatever stories I have around it with my kids, so that, you know, at whatever point when I'm no longer here, that they can carry that forward. So, for example, this past Christmas, I kept thinking about the, I don't know if your mom had this, but my mom always had nuts on the table.
My
like
grandma
a bowl,
did. My grandma
a
did.
bowl of pecans, walnuts, what are technically called Brazil nuts, and I won't put it on this podcast what they're actually called in our families, but Brazil nuts
Uh-huh.
and almonds. It was just an assortment of nuts, and I could hear and feel like eh, during the Christmas holiday, I kept sensing like the way it felt to like go through the nuts, and also the
Mm-hmm.
way it felt to hear them kind of rattling around in the bowl, and all that whole process of, you know, just sitting down and talking and cracking nuts, you know,
Cracker. Yep.
and sharing whatever you got, or somebody cracking them for a kid and give them a little piece or whatever. And then there were some occasions, cracking nuts to um have enough pecans for a pie or something like that. So that was a
Mm-hmm.
memory that I was like, okay, I want to find a bowl to house, nuts, and have them on my coffee table, and have
Yeah.
a, nutcracker set and all of that. Um, I was also thinking a lot about fresh fruit. Like my mom would always have a bowl of oranges and apples and things around the holidays. And I know that she did it because when she was growing up, sometimes at Christmas, that's what they got for Christmas was a little bag of fruit. And so she would always have that and some orange slices and stuff. And um, also got pulled into the memory around dusting powder. So my
Mm-hmm.
aunt would have that little powder dish on her vanity, and she, I'd be playing in the powder, dusting it all over, whatever. But I realized I never saw it anymore. Like after
Mm-hmm.
after getting a certain age, I know I didn't have any dusting powder.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. It wasn't something that was a staple. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a little container and put the dusting powder on my vanity myself. And I was like, these are little things that just invoke memory
Yeah.
for me and connect me back to um them,
Mm-hmm.
connects me to them, and also the feelings of those times, and all of that. And I do know that one of the things that I want to make sure that I do in this lifetime, and I also asked my mom. I was like, Mama, like what recipes? Is there something that you make? Like you were talking about your mom and her barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
I'd asked my mom, I was like, are there any things that you make just like Mama Lula? That was her mom's name. And wanting to
Mm-hmm.
be, to understand and figure out how to make those things, like dad's mom's potato salad is one of the things that, like, is her potato salad and her egg pie were two of my
Okay.
favorite things that she would make. And I remember I finally figured out how to make the potato salad taste the way grandma made it. And
Mm.
then I got the recipe for the egg pie from Aunt Bonnie, um, to and I made it, and it was just like when I made it, I was like, this reminds me of grandma's egg pie. And so
Mm.
I want to try as much as I can to record it, writing it down, not just digitally, but
Yeah.
also writing it, because I also find that a, I know that I save things with people's handwriting on it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a time I won't get to see their handwriting again.
Mm-hmm.
And recipes are things like that, and I want
Yeah.
to make sure that my kids have something with my handwriting on it, or that I have something from
Yeah.
with my mama's handwriting, or with dad's handwriting on it, because it just means so much, and you don't realize how much they mean until you get to a point where you realize you might not have it again.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm like that with photographs. I love looking at old pictures. My aunt will tell you to this day, whenever I go to her house, I'm digging through. And it could be the same photo albums that I've
Uh-huh.
seen year over year over year. I'm opening it up and I'm just looking through. Because now you never know, like with different eyes, I'm seeing things
Uh-huh.
different as I learn more. And, I can see the same picture that I've seen before, and oh, this is such and such. And what was y'all doing here? I love looking at photos, asking the stories behind them, and I love seeing like my aunts and my mom's responses when I say, "Look at this, y'all. What was y'all doing here?" You know, like I love, I
And they
love
probably
that.
like, girl, you don't know nothing about that. We was the stuff.
Right, right. And that's one thing that I do want to keep alive for the sake of my family, is to make sure we continue not only just to gather, but like document our gatherings, making sure that we have something to share so people can see faces. Because a lot of times I'm learning stories about elders and I don't know what these people look like. So it's kind of hard to, retain it. But I'm like that with photographs and document. I remember my cousin when I was little, he was the first person I knew that had one of them video cameras that sit up on your shoulder. That was the coolest thing to me. Yes. That was the coolest thing to me. And I used to be so excited when I'd be in Kentucky for the summers and he'd pull it out when we have like our 4th of July get-togethers, or if me and my little cousins just in there clowning, he'd pull out the camera. Like that was the coolest thing. That was the coolest thing.
I also love the videos that you do, like with, and I think they've been mostly at your aunt's house or whatever. They just feel they feel so rich with emotion and feeling, and also nostalgia, because even though I don't know your aunt, I don't know that space what her house is. I don't know any of those things, but yet it feels so familiar to me because it feels like family. It feels like love.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way that you capture it.
Another aspect of our culture is truly interior design. People would try to say that we don't have like culture as Black Americans, but the way our parents, and specifically mothers, the women in our families, how they design interior spaces and can fill those spaces, sometimes overfill them, but that's part of the aesthetic sometimes too. That's a real feeling. It's not just an aesthetic. It's a real feeling. That's a lived in space that is full of items and things. I know, like, my aunt has stuff from when she's traveled. My mom and my aunt used to go to Jamaica all the time. Like, she has stuff that I've known. That same little drum she got sitting on the corner was when she went to Jamaica on the cruise back in 90 something, like things that she collects. I remember my mom went through this phase where she was collecting tin cans. Like, and the kitchen was full of those. Like, it's just that, I don't know what to call it, but that aspect of our culture is definitely something. And I guess because it's in the home, that is what evokes such emotion, because it is tied directly to your inner space, your safe space, your home, that it does evoke that kind of response. And I think it's important to document that, because it could be overlooked or just, tossed aside as just
trash.
She's got a lot of stuff. She's got a lot of stuff in her house. Yeah. But that's a part of the culture that's important. It makes us who we are.
Are there any aspects of our lineage? Because I'm recognizing, even in this moment that I'm, sharing experiences about, growing up and, with our aunts and grandma's house and that kind of thing. And it's not lost on me that those are not experiences that you had, right? And at the same time, we both have very rich memories related to our moms, and especially their sisters, because my mama and her sisters, like, they, like, I call my mama's a baby of the 3 girls. It was really 4 girls, but the 3 from her mom and dad. She come with instructions too. But the middle sister, grew up calling her Mama Fan. And her older sister, I call Mommy. Not Mommy, but Mommy. Like, say it a certain way. Like, they were really like other mothers. And I imagine your aunt, served a similar role in your life. But what aspects, or are there any aspects of our lineage that you desire to know more about, or are curious about? Are there any other aspects of it that you find yourself being more curious about now?
I want to know stories. I want to know, how did we end up in that area of Mississippi? how is it that after all this time and everything that has gone down in the South, that our family is still in that same spot? How did they not get shifted out of place? Whereas I have people who were from my mom's side, is from that near from there, but we ended up spread out, a little bit. We have still family down in Memphis. And I'm assuming some in Mississippi, but I know directly our family on my mom's side is still down in Memphis as well. Mm-hmm. But I just, a lot of times we're told that the Black people in America came from Africa via the Atlantic slave trade, and that the people, especially in the South, are a result of that slave trade. And there was very much, trauma and oppression and things that happened. But again, the math just doesn't math to me. I want to know the stories.
Yeah.
Who are the people way back? I feel like losing my grandmother at 13, one of the things that I regret, and it's not necessarily regret because I was a kid. How would I know that I didn't have time? But I wish I would have been prone to asking more questions about her story and learning more, getting it directly from her, though, because she's the closest source now that I had at that time to the people who came before her. And she grew up in Mississippi. So I wanted to know, I wish I knew to ask more questions about that. So for me, it's all about stories. I want to know how we ended up there, who got us there, because I know it has to be, it has to be a rich lineage and culture that is there to learn about, and I just want to know about it. I'm simply just curious.
Yeah, one of the things that that I loved that you mentioned in the last episode was that you write down, or you have this kind of digital archive of the things that Dad has shared with you. And I know for a fact, like, I've always appreciated Dad's stories, but I would get so tangled up in who was who. I was like, wait a minute. I would just get tangled up in it. And I don't have as firm understanding of who's who and what role they played as I wish I did. And our cousin Shanika, like, she definitely has a grasp on things in a way that I know I don't. And so, I may reach out to her on occasion to ask certain questions or to clarify something that I don't understand. But, when you say storytelling is, like, knowing the stories is something that's important to you and what you want more of, you have probably one of the best storytellers in your dad. Like, he is, like, not only does he, like, tell great stories, just, they could be a lie.
Entertaining.
But,
yeah.
The story gonna be good. It's gonna be good and engaging. You're gonna be roped in.
Yeah.
But he has a great way of telling stories about family and about our family and his memory and what he recalls that I love to hear it. I recorded some when I was home, time before last. I recorded some of the things he was saying. But the storytelling is a part that I think of this adventure that we're doing here that I think is great, because it is a way of documenting who we are. And I think I read this book, I think it was on my last year's, no, it was 2024 as a read, about Molly Moon, who was one of the, she was kind of like the early architect of the way that the National Urban League does its fundraising, even still today. And honestly, kind of set the profile for the way that Black folks do fundraising generally, whether it's churches or, political fundraisers or whatever. You could probably trace it back to the way that Molly Moon did those fundraisers. But the author of that book, it was a biography, and she wrote in the end notes for the book that she had to compile this story about Molly Moon, even though it's a biography and it's scholarly. She kind of had to add some aspects of storytelling and what you might typically find in fiction, because there weren't always archives for the work that she did. And, because, like what we touched on previously about the things that in interior design, you said that people might consider, oh, that's not meaningful or that's not that, but it really is. They are artifacts. They are artifacts of our existence. They are part of the archive. And if the people who are developing the archive don't deem it important, it won't make it into the archive.
I hit my nose.
And
Yes.
so because these stories about our family and how we are and how we're establishing our connection, we view it as important. It will become part of the archive when someone's telling the story of who Kelly is or who Candace is. It's part of that, and it becomes part of the archive because we're telling it ourselves. And one of the things that I think Black women in particular have to do is to tell more of our stories and to get more engaged in storytelling as both the art, but also as of necessity.
Yes.
Because if we leave it to somebody else to tell the story, those things, they're going to pick and choose what they think is important. Like for me in my life, someone might choose the important thing that they might pick out is, oh, she, was an elected office, whatever. That's not the important part of my story to me. And so if I want the important things to come out, we got to tell our stories more and regularly and find a way to make sure that they're documented so that they can carry on and carry forward. So I like that's an aspect of it for you. And I think whatever time we have left, especially with Dad, the more you're collecting those stories, I know I will benefit from it because I imagine you'll lean into it in a way that on things that I might not necessarily see or appreciate in the same way that you do. But then I'll come to appreciate it because I'll need it at some point to, get the picture that you have. Yeah.
That was a word, Candace. Girl, I got chills. It's absolutely important. Thinking about it the whole time while you were speaking about the Molly Moon book, it took me back to Of Mules and Men by Zora Neale Hurston, and how she documented culture within that story. That was inspiring. I think that's partly what has inspired me to just make sure I gather the stories, if not to just have them in my mind, to be able to share them eventually in whatever medium that I am able to. But just to keep those stories alive, because without it, I feel like it's our responsibility. Nobody can tell your family story but you, a member of that family. It's no one else's responsibility to keep up with it and keep that alive but the people that are within that family. And what a great task to have. It seems overwhelming and it could be, seems impossible, but it's such a great responsibility to carry. Being the youngest woman of my grandmother's line now, like my grandmother had 2 daughters and I'm her only granddaughter. So I feel like it's a lot on me to try to really carry that history forward. And I think that might also be adding into my obsession with trying to gather stories. But it's truly important. Everything you said just then, that it is truly important.
And who knows, maybe, I don't know who's going to be the family archivist after Uncle Kenneth, and it has to be someone who not only views it as their obligation, but also somebody who loves it. Because, you'll take a different level of care with the information and how it's presented. So maybe, who knows, that might be you.
It could be, that's one of the only things that I'm apprehensive about. Just because I didn't grow up around y'all, I don't want to feel like I'm prying, but it's not out of like malicious intent. I just want to know. It does, that's part of my background is, that's my heritage too, even though I didn't grow up in it. I just rely a lot, I guess, on what I can find on ancestry.com and looking through records instead of asking directly, because I don't want to come across as, prying or, you never know what you could be asking that could be a sore subject too.
That's true. That's true. And that's going to be the case regardless. But I think when
you're separate, when you separate it from it, I really am coming in blind. I could be asking a random question and I don't know that, this is triggering something. But yeah, I would love to work with whoever in the family is keeping up with the history in that regard, so that I can learn more and do my part to help keep that story live and moving forward.
We definitely have to make sure you're connected with Uncle Kenneth because he
Yeah.
is, I don't, maybe he's already identified, some way to make sure that this work outlasts him. But
Mhm.
at a bare minimum, this work should never be just one person anyway, Yeah. So, I think and even if he has, even if he knows, oh, so and so is interested in this, whatever, and it's somebody else, I still think that though that type of work shouldn't live with just one person anyway, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so the more people that can become guardians of it over time, because you never know what
Yeah.
happens, and you never know, how long you get with people and all of that stuff. So I think we
Yeah.
definitely have to make sure you're connected with him.
For sure. For sure.
This is really good. Like I love talking about all these things,
Yeah.
especially related to what I love most, the South and my family.
Yeah. For sure.
But in reverse, my family first and then the South. But um, so in this episode, I think it'd be really great, especially since now we've got 2 conversations, or really 3 conversations under our belts now.
Mhm.
And, one of the things that we've said since the beginning was that this is an exercise in um uh telling our stories out loud and in public.
Mhm.
We don't know what's going to come up. We don't know how it's actually going to land with us or anyone else. But one of the things that I think we also have to be mindful of it, that things land differently, and we
Yeah.
we might have occasions where you've recorded and you reflect. You're like, that that sat with me, or
Mhm.
it it did something in me, and I wasn't sure what it was doing. But
Mhm.
and so maybe
Yeah.
I thought maybe this episode we could talk a little bit about maybe we can therapize with each other about how we're
Yeah.
feeling with these first couple of episodes, and anything that we want to share with folks about what we've realized, learned, or received.
For sure. I, you know, I was apprehensive about being as forthcoming and truthful in prior conversations just because I knew it was recorded and it'd be shared with the masses, right? Um, I had my own fears that I think were just internal um voices that I had projected onto myself or just
Mhm.
upheld within myself, that through the power and I guess the power of visibility and sharing out loud, it's quelling those.
Mhm.
I'm finding that a lot of what I'm thinking or what I'm anticipating for or bracing myself for is not necessarily true or real, as real as I should be making it, to where it's controlling me and making me want to retreat and feel be less accessible or less visible. I think a lot of times prior to now, and not just with the podcast, but lately in life, um, being invisible was the safe thing for me. It felt like,
Mhm.
and I think being able to talk with you about a subject such as our family and the dynamic that we have alone, but then also incorporating even more personal details of my life, and being able to share those out loud has been refreshing.
Mhm.
And it's just reminding me of, or what's the word, making me more aware that there is true power in being visible, being seen, and that there is something to glean from the stories that we have, the experiences that we have to share with others. um it could be harmful if kept in, to be honest.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
could benefit others, it could benefit me. That visibility is not something to fear. That's the biggest
Mhm.
thing that I'm learning, and I'm loving it. I'm taking that in, and I'm going head on. You can see I've been streaming
Oh,
video
you
games
have.
this week
You have.
for the past 2 weeks on the internet, like just finding things that bring me joy and not being afraid to share those out loud.
Yeah.
Um, I've been really inspired through this experience, for sure.
Is there anything in particular that sticks out the most to you, as in, like, I know if we didn't do this, I wouldn't have done X or felt X or experienced X.
Mm,
Got my algebra working. X, Y, Z.
yeah. Had we not done this, I think we just, I hate to make social media so important and put it on such a pedestal, but I know in the past I've been absent. And for me to be someone who says I love documenting through photographs and being, taking pictures of others, a lot of times I don't want to be seen. So I don't take pictures. I don't,
You're
I
not in front
usually
of the
am not
camera.
online in that way. Yeah. But doing this, specifically podcasting, talking into a microphone, getting comfortable with like feeling like I'm in a production, I think I wouldn't have probably even thought about streaming if we hadn't even done this.
Yeah,
That's one thing.
that.
And yeah, just open the doors, girl.
I love that.
What about you?
I was talking with my mom after, I think it was after the first episode. And it was interesting because she brought up some things that we actually talk about in episodes 2 and 3, but she doesn't know that yet. She didn't know that at the time we were talking and I was like, oh wow, that's interesting, because we're going to kind of say a little bit about that. And I was like, I don't want to ruin it for you, so I'm not going to tell you what we talked about. But she said, I wonder if there are any, she said herself that she was like, I didn't know how I was going to receive anything, because it is still a very, how do I put it? This project, seeing us side by side, can, and I knew had the potential to evoke a lot of memories for my mom, and not necessarily pleasant ones at times. And I knew that, and I wanted to make a point to tell my mom, it's like, I understand if there are times that you might want to call and you just want to vent, and I want you to know that I'm here for that, because I don't want her to feel like she has to tiptoe around me, or anything like that with regard to her feelings, because her feelings in all of this also matter, and I don't want her to feel like she has to shelter herself from me or dad, by having feelings. And at the same time, I didn't want to feel, much like you, I didn't want to feel like my sharing was like kind of poking at a wound, over and over again without any regard. If that, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does.
But in that, she was saying, she was like, she said, and you guys, she was like, you guys might have to, y'all need to make sure that y'all take some time to reflect and talk about your feelings if you have some feelings.
Yeah.
I said, we will. I said, Mom, I definitely had some feelings after our last recording. And I said, I didn't want to, I said, I think the way that I will handle them is that I will take my feelings and I will talk with my therapist about them, so that I can make sure I am situating myself within it in a way that is healthy, not just for me, but also in how I communicate them. Because I know that if I were to communicate them the moment that they pop up for me, I might not have the right words. I might not have the right, the right perspective on anything. And the last thing that I would want to do is to cause harm in the conversation. You know what I mean? And so, and I said, I did have feelings. I think I'll share them I'll share them on a future episode. She said, okay, well, that's good. Right. So then after our last episode, one of the last episodes, where we were talking about our moms, and I think you said we both probably need to go talk to that lady. My mom was like, I think you were that lady in the episode. She said, I think you gave some good advice. I was like, well, thank you, Mom. No, whatever, that mattered to me. But the thing that I found myself having feelings about in the previous episode was that it is so easy, and I think it goes back to what we always perceive about families with dynamics such as ours, right? The reality is that my parents are married when you were conceived. That's the reality. And, I know that there were so many things that influenced the end of my parents' marriage. So for me, it's not like, oh, that's why my parents, it's not that at all. There were so many things that influenced that. But at the same time, the easy story is to say, oh, dad stepped out, did a thing, and I got Kelly, and that was it. Things happen, right? That's the easy story. But when you shared the last recording and you were like, dad had shared a picture with you of him and your mom in 84, right? And it disrupted for me every story that I created in my mind about their relationship and everything, to where I was like, wow, okay, that was a relationship. It wasn't we met, we hooked up, we did thing. you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making sense in what I'm saying.
No, I hear you. Yep.
There was a relationship there, and not a minor one, and so it's not what I had feelings around wasn't the existence of a relationship. It was the disruption of the story. Because everything, when it fits neatly into a story that you've created for yourself, it's easy to just go with that story, and that's just how things are. But then,
especially if you made peace with the story too.
But yes, it was the disruption of the story that I told myself, because the story was so like, it was packaged neatly in my mind. And absent any input from anyone or anything else, I could go with that story for as long as I wanted to.
Yeah. Especially if it's a story that you have not like grown attached to, but you've made peace with it, and that's it. So now it's a different story. So now, do I have to wrap my head? Is there another piece that I need to now wrap my head around again? Like I thought I did the work here, and now here's something else. And again, that goes back to me learning stories, hearing stuff, and sharing it, and I'm not knowing what could, you know what I'm saying? What it could trigger, or things like that. I'm just curious, and I be wanting to know stuff.
But I hope that doesn't stop you from sharing, because because the thing is, I think it is important for me to it is / was important for me to disrupt that story, because it invites a different type of conversation with dad. You know what I mean? With different components and different elements, because whether or not a person was supposed to have a relationship with another person, there is a grief that's associated when a relationship no longer exists, regardless of the appropriateness of a relationship, or who is hurt by it or not. When a person has a relationship and they no longer can have that relationship, there is grief. And no matter the source of grief is hard. And I imagine, so like now I'm like, if I try to put myself in Dad's shoes, like, he probably experienced some grief, because you know what I mean? I don't know. So those are my feelings that I found myself thinking about, and really also appreciating this space for.
Yeah. For sure. I agree.
So today you that lady.
Uh-oh.
Today you that lady I was talking to.
Oh man. I'm so grateful for the space though, Candace, for real. This is definitely something that we need. It's necessary.
Yep. Same. So I hope y'all have enjoyed this 4th episode. At some point we're probably gonna stop counting, but not yet.
Yeah.
This 4th episode of Contents May Vary, where we got into some things about how we get to be who we are, and and the gift that I hope you all receive in listening is more than anything, I think probably the message of this episode is tell your stories, share your stories, find the stories, Whoever
Go
the
digging, go
storyteller
looking.
is in your family, get them to
Yeah.
talking and record it. Develop your own archive and whatever that looks like. And sharing with us. So you can follow us or make sure to follow us. Listen wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify or Apple. Watch us on YouTube because, I don't know if y'all figured it out yet, but Candace, me, third person, makes a lot of faces. And sometimes you might get more to the story by the face I make than you do by the words that come out of my mouth. But follow us on all the platforms. Contents may vary. Pod, and also give us some reviews. Give us some feedback. We want to
Yeah.
know what you think. How things are landing or hitting with you. And as always, I love talking to you, Kelli.
Love you.
Love you too. We'll see y'all next time.